Microsoft Word 2003, Organizing Content, Tables with Formatting. We're going to take a look at how we take our organized content, we have them in their tables, they're nice and chunky, and we're going to make sure that they look a little better with some formatting. Here you're going to have a choice, manual or automatic. Kind of like if you're going and buying a new car. Are you going to get a manual or are you going to get an automatic? We're talking, of course, about tables and how we can format those tables as we organize our content in our documents. So now that we've got our structure in place, we've added enough columns or rows, or maybe changed the size or some of the things that we want to do. Maybe we want to format them a little bit. Maybe we want to enhance the appearance of our table, because if I open up my Acme second quarter report -2, because I saved some of the changes I made, if I scroll down here, you can see that same table. There's the table I had. I've got the text underneath here, and so if I go ahead and do this, and I want to make this look a little better, it's no problem. All I need to do is select certain areas of the table, and I can use some of the formatting tools that you see up here. Now, I've got a few different things that I've done previously before we started this video. I went ahead and added one more row up on top because eventually I want to go ahead and add a title up here to this particular table. And I want to change maybe some of the formatting here. Now when you do this, again, I can select things and I can manipulate things like font and text and anything just like I normally would. For example, I've got north, south, east, and west. Well, I want the font to change. Well, I select it all, just taking my mouse, selecting it all, grabbing it, and then come in and let's say I want to change it to Garamond. That's a pretty popular font, and I want to make it a little bigger because these are column headings. So I go ahead and say I want them to be 16. Now notice what happens. Because I have my column set for auto fit, they will automatically fit the largest component within that column. In this case, that's north, south here, east, and west, because the numbers just fill out the cells that they have. So I can change things here and manipulate text and do formatting on content in the cell. So I can do that. That's font styles, font effects. I can even do paragraph formatting. Check this out. Notice for each one of these cells, or the columns here, I've got my columns and my rows set up on my ruler here, and here are my indents. Here are my hanging indents, my first line indents. I've got right indents. Now, of course, this is kind of small, but if I did large cells, I can change the indents here and the tab stops and do some interesting things within the cell. So that's all part of formatting. And notice I'm doing this manually. I'm going in and I'm selecting things and changing things and doing things. So you can do just standard stuff on the text and the content. All that being said, what else can we do? Well, what about changing the borders? You'll notice by default, anytime you create a table, it automatically rings, or I should say squares out the whole single cell with a one line, a one weight border, and it goes all the way around. So all sides, top, bottom, right, and left, and you have this grid. Well, what if you don't want that? What if you want to change that? Well, you can go ahead and select maybe this row here. I'll go ahead and do that. And let's say I want to change the top border. Now you can turn it on and you can turn it off. Now watch what happens when I turned it off. It grayed out the line there. It still shows me the grid, so that just makes me understand that this is a table and that's the grid, and that's where the grid line is. But if I printed this, this line right here wouldn't be there. That line right here on top of the north, south, east, and west. It wouldn't be there because I turned it off. Now I can turn it back on if I need to, just by selecting here and selecting on the top border. Or I could go and I could say I want the whole thing, outside border, all borders. I can even do horizontal lines in between text, diagonals, all kinds of different things right here on my borders button. So in this case, I'll just select off. And let's say that I want to now put a title in here, but I want this title to be in the center of this whole thing, and I don't want grid lines. Now, even if I remove the grid lines, if I select this row, and I come in here and I say, well, I want these. No, I don't want these. So now there is no, there's no borders around here. However, guess what? I want to have text that's centered above this, and it won't because I'm constrained by my cells. Well, how can I fix that? I can select these cells, come up here to Table, and come down here, or up here I should say, to merge cells. When I do that and I merge the cells, now I have one cell up on top. Now I can center the text, go up here, go to Tahoma small caps and say second quarter sales. So see, check that out. Now I have a title here. And actually I do want that lines around this to keep it as part of the actual thing. Or maybe I want to shade in this particular cell that we have. Now notice I get my autocorrect options because it doesn't like that second there. All right, whatever. So what we can do is we can select everything in this cell, and if you come up here to the table, remember, you've got all your abilities to come in here and do things, but one of the things we might want to do is do some shading color. So right now I'm going to come down, and it says right now there's no fill, but let's say I want a 30% gray, or I want maybe some light blue, a turquoise, or my favorite sky blue. So I do that, and check this out. Now here's my title. It merged the cells. I now have north, east, south, and west, and I want to change these guys to also have some sort of shading. So I can come over here. And let's say this time I just want kind of a 35% gray. And then I want to bold that text. Look at that. See? Much better. Much snazzier. Kind of pops out on the page for you. And that's what we want to do in our Word 2003 documents, is make sure that they look good and that they catch somebody's attention, so that way when they're reading it they know exactly what they're looking at, number one, and also we can draw attention to certain pieces of our documents. So let's say I want to get even more complex with my borders and shading, because obviously this gives me a few things that I can do. But if I wanted to, I can come in over here and let's highlight these. Or actually, let's go ahead and undo some of the changes that I made. So we'll undo those. So now I want to create better borders and better shading here. So I can select the cells right here. And now I can come up here to my format, borders and shading, and it opens up my borders and shading dialog box. And check this out. This is different. This is a little different than what we saw before when I did borders and shading on just regular text in my paragraph formatting. I added a few things. I can do the box, I can do grids, I can do all, which are standard, but I can also do custom. And here you get a whole lot more styles than I have in my standard. If I scroll down here, in here, I get a lot more different line styles than I get right here. So I can come over here. Oh, I like this one. This is nice. I'm going to choose this one. 3-point color is automatic. Maybe I want to kind of mix and match a little bit of color. I could do that. Maybe do a dark blue on that so it changes the color. Match up there. I'm all about that. And you want to apply this to the cell, to the table, the paragraph, to the text. Notice we have two more options here that we didn't used to have. We only had text and paragraph last time. Now it's cell and table. So we'll go ahead and say cell. That's fine. So we do that. Now if I want to change the shading within that, I can click on shading again, and you can apply it to the cells, the tables, the paragraph, the text. So we'll stick with cells. And I want to use, I'm using the blue around here. Maybe I want a light gray like we did before, and this time I'll go down to 25%. I think that'll be good. So we go ahead and say I want no different patterns, because you have patterns you can use as well. Notice you can use the grids and the trellis and the horizontal lines, but we'll stick with just a kind of a gray shading that's in there. So I click OK, and now I have set up my borders and shading and everything that I want to accomplish here, and it's real simple. Got my shading going, I got all that stuff, kind of fun. So I can do custom borders if I need to, simply by selecting those and get my different line styles and the line weight and the border colors and all those things. And so when it prints out, I'm going to have some really nice looking tables that I can utilize. All real good. Now I did that all manually. What if I want to do it automatically? Well, I can do that as well. So let's try that. Let's go down here and scroll down just a little bit, and let's create a new one. Let's say I want to create, and we'll say here below are the previous quarter's results. And I want to create a table here. So I can go in and I'll just do my standard table. I'll use the insert table up here. So I know I need 4, and I'll do We'll do 3, which is pretty much like, oh wait, we did 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, this is kind of review to us. We come down here and I go down to table, insert, row below. Okay, so now this is pretty much the same that I had before, but now I want to make this table and I want to make it look real snazzy, but I don't want to have to go individually and create all the stuff. I can use what is known as auto formatting, which is so very cool. All you need to do, click anywhere within your table. Then come up over here to table, table auto format. And that's going to bring up your table auto format dialog box here. And notice right now it's the standard table grid. And you can change the table styles. You can do user defined. I could save some of my tables as different types of styles. The ones that are in use, we'll stick with all table styles. Right now, the table grid, which is the default, is set up. And all the special formats that are included as part of this are being applied. Heading, rows, first column, last row, and last column. You can deselect some of them if you don't want them. But let's say I want to go up and do table 3D effects 1. What does that look like? Oh, very nice. What it will do is it will go ahead and add a little bit of a 3D depth to the input data, and then your totals, your subtotals here on the side will be kind of lifted out, kind of be up a little bit. You can do table 3D effects 2, where you're separating the rows. You can do 3, so you can do different types of things. And you got classic tables, colorful tables, column tables, contemporary, elegant. You can see just about anything you can think of. Pretty much they have a nice color here, and you know, whatever one you want. There's your professional table, here's your normal table, subtle, web, so this way it can be web enabled. So you have all these at your fingertips. So let's find one that we like here. Yeah, I like this one. This one's very nice because you got your totals, you got your thing. So your last column will be all grayed out, then you have this. So we say, okay, I want to apply. Once I do that, and by the way, you can modify this, select this, and then modify it, change how things are done by utilizing your formatting tools, which are right here. What is the style based on? One of your normal tables. The name, it's table colorful 2, so we can modify this style. We can then use the format, the properties, the borders and shading, stripes, font, paragraph, and tabs. Table normal plus pattern, 20% with a yellow foreground and a white background. It gives you all this information, and then you can manipulate it if you want and create a new or modify the existing style. So I click cancel because I don't want to modify it. If I wanted to do a new style, same thing. I click new. It will base it upon the existing table grid, which is, or you can go, you know what, I want to base it on colorful 2. I want to base it on this. And so I start with this, and then I make the changes that I want to make. I don't want Times New Roman. I want Arial. So now it's all in Arial. And I'm going to call this now Jeremy's Grid. Because Jeremy's my friend, and hey, Jeremy would like a grid named after him. So we say Jeremy's Grid. Put a space in there. I need to learn how to hit the space bar. And we'll go ahead, and that's all I did was I changed this. We can change a lot of things. I click OK. Look at that now. Jeremy's Grid is now an applicable table style. It's up at the top here because J comes before T. And so if I scroll through and I find Jeremy's Grid, or I can create all kinds of different grids or tables for my company, for my personal use, and I can have them in my table auto format, and quickly come up here, grab that, click apply, and look at that. It went ahead and said, all right, all your columns except for the last one will be kind of like this yellow color. You have your column head in the bottom of the table. We'll have a nice big dark line to say that it's the end. And now I can type in north, tab over, south, east, and west. And then I can change this and put in numbers. And notice it takes the formatting that I would see in my auto table. So what I would really want to do is for this particular table, notice my north numbers are now different than my south. I would have to change the format just a little bit to match this. So if I have a quarterly result table, I would say, you know what, I don't want bold italics in the first row after the top title column headers. So you can change those type of things. I'm just demonstrating exactly how you can use the auto format in order for you to come in and have everything set up, ready to go, looks nice, and you can print up your stuff, looks great, or email it off to your consultant buddies and your friends or your clients, and they're going to say, wow, that's pretty sharp. That's really nice. Nice quarter results. I can read it easily, and it identifies what I'm looking for. Isn't that what we're looking for when we're doing tables? Absolutely, because we're organizing our content. So in this video, we concentrated mostly on how we can format our tables, whether we do it manually and we select the individual cells and the rows and the columns and change the text and do the things we want to do with borders and shading, or do we let Word 2003 do it for us with auto formatting? Pick a nice good color scheme and utilize that. And don't forget though, if we want to manipulate those and change them a little bit, we can, and create our own custom formats for our tables. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.